The soft sound of crying pierced through the autumn rain that drummed against the windows of Jung Ye-jin's apartment in Mapo-gu. At first, she thought it was the neighbor's cat. The building was old, and sounds carried strangely through the thin walls. But as she paused her late-night work on wedding flower arrangements, the crying continued, weak but persistent, coming from just outside her front door. Ye-jin set down her floral wire and wiped her hands on her apron, her heart beginning to race with an inexplicable sense of urgency. She lived on the third floor of a modest apartment building, the kind of place where neighbors minded their own business and unexpected visitors were rare, especially at 11 o'clock on a Tuesday night. When she opened her door, the sight that greeted her would change her life forever. A baby carrier sat on her doorstep, rain droplets glistening on its plastic cover. Inside, a tiny infant, no more than a few weeks old, was crying with the desperate hunger of the very young. The baby was wrapped in a soft yellow blanket, and tucked beside the carrier was a simple canvas bag and a sealed envelope with "Please" written on it in shaky handwriting. Ye-jin's hands trembled as she knelt beside the carrier, her maternal instincts overwhelming her shock. The baby was so small, so vulnerable, and clearly in need of immediate care. She looked up and down the dimly lit hallway, hoping to catch sight of whoever had left this precious burden on her doorstep. But she was completely alone. "Oh, sweetheart," she whispered, carefully lifting the carrier and the bag, bringing them inside her warm apartment. "What happened to you? Where is your family?" The baby's cries intensified as she set the carrier on her dining table, and Ye-jin's heart clenched with a mixture of fear and fierce protectiveness. She had never taken care of an infant before, but something deep in her soul recognized the urgency of the situation. With shaking fingers, she opened the envelope. Inside was a letter written in the same unsteady handwriting as the envelope. "To whoever finds my daughter, her name is Minji. She is 3 weeks old, born on September 15th. I cannot take care of her the way she deserves. I am young and alone, and I have no family to help me. I chose your door because I watched you for weeks, and I see how gently you handle the flowers in your shop. I see how you smile at the children in the neighborhood. I believe you have a kind heart. Please love her. Please give her the life I cannot provide. I will never stop thinking about her, but I know this is the only way she can be safe and happy. In the bag you will find formula, diapers, and everything I could give her. There is also her birth certificate and medical records. Thank you for saving my baby. A desperate mother." Tears streamed down Ye-jin's face as she finished reading. The weight of what had just happened settled on her shoulders like a blanket of responsibility and love she had never expected to carry. At 28, she had built a quiet life for herself as a freelance florist, creating arrangements for weddings and special events from her small apartment studio. She had always imagined she might have children someday, but in the traditional way, marriage first, then family, then the comfortable predictability of planned parenthood. This was nothing like that. This was immediate, urgent, and completely overwhelming. But as she looked down at baby Minji, whose cries had softened to small whimpers, Ye-jin felt something shift inside her heart. The baby's tiny fingers were curled into fists, and her dark eyes seemed to be searching for something: safety, comfort, love. Without hesitation, Ye-jin reached into the carrier and carefully lifted the infant into her arms. "It's okay," she whispered, surprised by how natural it felt to hold this tiny life against her chest. "I've got you now. We're going to figure this out together." The next few hours passed in a blur of first-time motherhood. Ye-jin fed Minji formula from the bottles provided in the bag, changed her first diaper with YouTube tutorials playing on her phone, and walked circles around her apartment when the baby wouldn't settle. By dawn, both of them were exhausted, but Minji was clean, fed, and sleeping peacefully in Ye-jin's arms. As the morning light filtered through her apartment windows, Ye-jin made the decision that would define the rest of her life. She called the authorities to report the situation, but she also made it clear that she wanted to adopt Minji if no family came forward. The social worker who arrived that afternoon was impressed by how quickly Yejin had bonded with the baby and how well she was caring for her despite having no experience. Cases like this are unusual, the social worker, Ms. Park, explained as she documented the situation. Usually abandoned babies are brought to hospitals or safe haven locations. Someone specifically chose you, Ms. Jung. That shows a level of consideration that's quite remarkable. I keep wondering about her mother, Yejin admitted, gently rocking Minji as she spoke. She must have been watching me, learning my routines. She must have been so desperate to give up her baby, but she still cared enough to try to choose the right person. The letter suggests she was very young and had no support system, Ms. Park noted. Unfortunately, that's more common than you might think. What matters now is that this baby has found someone who can provide the stability and love she needs. The legal process of adoption would take months, but in the meantime, Yejin was approved as Minji's foster mother. She transformed her small apartment into a baby-friendly space, setting up a crib in her bedroom and organizing her work schedule around feeding times and nap schedules. Her flower arrangement business became more flexible, with clients understanding that she now had a baby to care for. The neighborhood Ajumas who had watched her create beautiful wedding bouquets for years now smiled and cooed over Minji when Yejin took her for walks. The elderly man who ran the convenience store downstairs started keeping baby formula in stock. Her life had become fuller and more complicated, but also infinitely more meaningful. 3 months into their new life, together, Yejin received a call that would turn their world upside down once again. Ms. Jung, Ms. Park's voice was carefully neutral over the phone. We've had a development in Minji's case. Someone has come forward claiming to be the father. Yejin's blood ran cold. She was sitting in her apartment, Minji sleeping peacefully, in her arms after an afternoon feeding, and suddenly the future she had been building felt fragile and uncertain. The father, she managed to whisper. A young man named Kang Woo-jin. He says he's been searching for the mother and the baby for months. He has documents that appear to verify his paternity, and he's requesting custody. The phone slipped in Yejin's suddenly sweaty palm. What does this mean for Minji? For the adoption? It means we need to meet with him and evaluate his situation. If he can provide a stable, loving home for the child, and if his paternity is confirmed, he has legal rights as the biological father. I'm sorry, Ms. Jung. I know this isn't what you wanted to hear. After hanging up, Yejin held Minji closer, breathing in the sweet baby scent that had become as familiar as her own. Heartbeat, the thought of losing this child, who had become her daughter, in every way that mattered was unbearable. But she also knew that if Minji's father was truly seeking her, if he could provide love and stability, she would have to consider what was best for the baby. 2 days later, Yejin found herself sitting in a conference room at the social services office, Minji in her carrier beside her, waiting to meet the man who claimed to be her daughter's father. When the door opened and Ms. Park entered with a young man behind her, Yejin's first thought was that he looked exactly like she'd imagined Minji's father would look. Kang Woo-jin was probably in his mid-20s, with gentle eyes and the kind of face that suggested intelligence and kindness. He was tall and lean, dressed simply in jeans and a sweater, and when his gaze fell on Minji sleeping in her carrier, his entire expression transformed with a mixture of wonder, love, and profound relief. Is that her? He asked quietly, his voice rough with emotion. Is that Minji? Yejin's protective instincts flared. How do you know her name? Woo-jin looked at her directly for the first time, and she was surprised by the depth of pain and hope she saw in his eyes. Because I named her. 3 weeks before she was born, Soo Young and I chose that name together. It means wise and intelligent. We hoped she would grow up to be strong and smart. Soo Young? Yejin asked. Minji's mother, Woo-jin said, settling into the chair across from her. We were together for 2 years. We were young, maybe too young, but we loved each other. When she got pregnant, we were scared but excited. We started making plans, talking about the future. Ms. Park spread documents across the table, birth certificates, DNA test results, hospital records. Mr. Kang's paternity has been confirmed. Through genetic testing, she said professionally. He is indeed Minji's biological father. Ye-jin felt the world tilt beneath her feet, but she forced herself to focus on what mattered most. If you're her father, where have you been for 3 months? Why didn't Soo-young tell you where she was going? Woo-jin's face crumpled with pain. Because I was in the army. I had been drafted for my mandatory service, and I was stationed in Gangwon-do. Soo-young was supposed to stay with her aunt while I was away, but when I came back on leave after Minji was born, they were gone. The aunt said Soo-young had left in the middle of the night with the baby, and she didn't know where they went. He pulled out his phone and showed Ye-jin a photo, a young woman with Minji's exact features, holding a newborn baby and smiling despite the exhaustion in her eyes. I've been searching for them for months, Woo-jin continued. I hired a private investigator, posted on social media, contacted every hospital and social service agency in Seoul. I was starting to think I'd never find my daughter. What happened to Soo-young? Ye-jin asked, though she dreaded the answer. I don't know, Woo-jin said quietly. The investigator thinks she might have left the city, maybe gone to family in another province. All I know is that she felt she couldn't raise Minji alone, and she chose you to be her mother. The room fell silent, except for Minji's soft breathing. Ye-jin looked at this young man, who was clearly Minji's father, who had been searching desperately for his child, who had every legal right to take her home, but she also looked at the baby she had been caring for, loving, raising as her own for 3 months. What do you want? She asked finally. I want my daughter, Woo-jin said simply. But I also want to understand why Soo-young chose you. I want to know about the last 3 months of Minji's life. I want to know the woman who has been taking care of my child when I couldn't. Ms. Park cleared her throat. Given the unusual circumstances of this case, I'm going to recommend a gradual transition period. Mr. Kang, you'll need to complete parenting classes and undergo a home study before we can approve you for full custody. Ms. Jung, you'll continue as Minji's foster mother during this time, but you'll work with Mr. Kang to help him bond with his daughter and prepare for the transition. No, it wasn't the outcome either of them had hoped for, but it was fair, and most importantly, it was what would be best for Minji. The next few weeks were the most emotionally complex period of Ye-jin's life. Woo-jin began visiting every other day, spending hours learning how to care for his daughter, how she liked to be held, what made her smile, the specific way she needed to be rocked to fall asleep. Ye-jin taught him how to prepare her formula, how to read her different cries, how to change diapers efficiently. At first, their interactions were polite but tense. Ye-jin was protective of the baby she considered her daughter, and Woo-jin was eager to establish his relationship with the child he had been searching for. But gradually, as they spent more time together, caring for Minji, they began to understand each other. She has your eyes, Ye-jin observed one afternoon as Woo-jin successfully got Minji to stop crying by singing a soft lullaby. She has Soo-young's stubborn streak, Woo-jin replied with a sad smile. Even as a newborn, she knew exactly what she wanted and wasn't shy about demanding it. Tell me about Soo-young, Ye-jin said gently. What was she like? Woo-jin's expression grew distant and wistful. She was artistic, like you. She painted watercolors, mostly landscapes and flowers. She was quiet but incredibly strong. When she got pregnant, she was scared about telling her family, but she was determined to be a good mother. What happened? Why did she feel like she couldn't raise Minji? Her parents disowned her when they found out about the pregnancy, Woo-jin said, his voice heavy with old pain. They said she had brought shame on the family. Her aunt took her in, but grudgingly, and with me in the army, unable to help or support them. I think she felt completely alone. Ye-jin felt tears prick her eyes as she imagined the desperation that young mother must have felt. She was brave to make the choice she made. It couldn't have been easy. She chose well, Woo-jin said, looking at Ye-jin with something like gratitude. Minji is healthy and happy. She clearly knows she's loved. That's because of you. These conversations became more frequent and more personal as the weeks passed. Ye-jin learned that Woo-jin worked as a graphic designer, that he had been saving money to support his small family, that he had spent every leave from the army looking for Su-young and Minji. Woo-jin learned that Ye-jin had always dreamed of having children, that she had been unmarried by choice rather than circumstance, that she had fallen in love with Minji the moment she held her. "I keep wondering what I would have done differently," Woo-jin admitted one evening as they watched Minji sleep peacefully in her crib. "If I had found a way to get discharged early, if I had convinced Su-young to wait for me." "You can't change the past," Ye-jin said gently. "All you can do is be the father Minji needs now." "And what about you?" Woo-jin asked. "This can't be easy, knowing you're going to have to say goodbye to her." Ye-jin was quiet for a long moment, watching the baby's chest rise and fall with each breath. "It's the hardest thing I've ever had to do. But I've loved her for 3 months, and part of loving someone is wanting what's best for them. If what's best for Minji is being with her father, then that's what I want too." Woo-jin stared at her with an expression she couldn't quite read. "You're remarkable, do you know that? Most people in your situation would be fighting for custody, demanding their rights as the foster parent." "Most people didn't get to choose this the way I did," Ye-jin replied. "Minji came to me as a gift, and I've treasured every moment with her. But she was never really mine to keep." The honesty of her words hung in the air between them, and something shifted in their relationship that night. Woo-jin began staying later during his visits, helping with evening routines and late-night feedings. He started bringing coffee for Ye-jin and groceries to help with the extra expenses of caring for a baby. Their conversations moved beyond Minji to their own lives, their dreams, their fears about the future. "I never imagined I'd be a single father," Woo-jin confessed one night as they sat in Ye-jin's small living room, Minji sleeping peacefully between them in her bouncy seat. "I always thought I'd have a partner, someone to share the responsibility with." "You're not alone," Ye-jin said quietly. "Minji will always have people who love her, even if the situation isn't traditional." "Including you?" Woo-jin asked, his voice hopeful. "Including me," Ye-jin confirmed. "If you'll let me be part of her life, I'd like to stay connected to her. I know I'm not her mother, but I love her like she's my own child." Woo-jin was quiet for a long moment, studying her face in the soft lamplight. "What if you were her mother? What if we found a way for you to stay in her life permanently?" Ye-jin's heart stopped. "What do you mean?" "I mean," Woo-jin said carefully, "that Minji has bonded with both of us. She's happy and secure when we're together. And I've come to care about you too, Ye-jin. Not just as Minji's foster mother, but as someone I admire and respect and have feelings for." The confession hung in the air between them, like a bridge neither was sure they should cross. "Woo-jin," Ye-jin said slowly, "you don't have to say things like that to make me feel better about the transition. I know my role in Minji's life is temporary." "What if it doesn't have to be?" he asked, leaning forward earnestly. "What if we could build something together? A family that includes all of us?" Ye-jin felt her breath catch. "You mean?" I think I'm falling in love with you," Woo-jin said simply. "I know it's complicated, and I know the timing is strange, but these past few weeks of getting to know you, of seeing how you care for Minji, of talking with you about everything and nothing, I can't imagine my life without you in it." Tears streamed down Ye-jin's face as she looked at this man who had appeared in her life like an answered prayer and a devastating complication all at once. "Woo-jin, I care about you too, more than I expected. But we can't build a relationship just because we both love Minji." "That's not why," Woo-jin said, reaching out to gently wipe her tears away. "I love Minji because she's my daughter, but I'm falling in love with you because you're kind and generous and strong. You gave up your entire life to care for a baby that wasn't yours. You're teaching me how to be a father without making me feel inadequate. You make me want to be better than I am." Ye-jin looked down at Minji, who was stirring in her sleep, tiny hands reaching toward the voices she recognized as safety and love. "What would this mean for all of us?" "It would mean we take things slowly," Woo-jin said. We get to know each other as more than just Minji's caregivers. We see if what we feel is real and lasting. And if it is, we build a family together. You, me, and Minji. And if it's not, then we find a way to co-parent Minji that lets her have both of us in her life, Woojin said. Because regardless of what happens between us, I never want to take her away from the woman who saved her life and loved her when I couldn't. Over the next month, their relationship evolved from careful cooperation to tentative romance. Woojin started asking Yejin on actual dates, dinner at quiet restaurants while his sister babysat Minji, walks through the park on Sunday afternoons, with the baby in her stroller, movie nights at home after Minji had gone to sleep. Yejin discovered that Woojin was funny and thoughtful, with a dry sense of humor and a genuine curiosity about her work as a florist. He helped her with her wedding arrangements, showing surprising artistic skill as he learned to create the delicate beauty she brought to her floral designs. "You're good at this," she observed one evening, as he carefully wired stems for a bridal bouquet. "I learned from watching you," he replied. "You handle flowers the same way you handle Minji, with patience and attention to what they need to flourish." Their first kiss happened on a Tuesday night in December, 3 months after Woojin had first walked into that conference room. Minji was asleep, and they were cleaning up. After dinner, when Yejin reached across Woojin to put away a dish, he caught her hand gently, and when she turned to look at him, the expression on his face was so tender and full of love that she couldn't breathe. "Is this okay?" he asked quietly, his free hand coming up to cup her face. "Yes," she whispered, and when he kissed her, it felt like coming home and starting an adventure all at the same time. By spring, they had settled into a rhythm that felt like family. Woojin had completed all the requirements for custody, but instead of moving Minji to his own apartment, he had started staying overnight at Yejin's place more and more frequently. They shared nighttime feedings and early morning wake-ups, weekend trips to the park, and quiet evenings working side by side while Minji played on her blanket. "I have something to ask you," Woojin said one Saturday morning as they sat drinking coffee while Minji napped. "Something important." Yejin looked up from the wedding consultation notes she was reviewing, immediately recognizing the nervous energy in his voice. "What is it?" Woojin reached into his pocket and pulled out a small velvet box, setting it on the table between them. "I know we've only been together for a few months, and I know our situation is unconventional, but I also know that I love you, and I love the family we've built together. Minji needs both of us, and I need both of you." Yejin stared at the box, her heart racing. "Woojin!" "I'm not just asking you to marry me," he continued quickly. "I'm asking you to officially adopt Minji with me. I'm asking you to be her mother in every legal and real sense, not just in your heart. I'm asking you to build a life with us that makes this unconventional beginning into something beautiful and permanent." Tears streamed down Yejin's face as she opened the box to reveal a simple, elegant ring, not flashy, but perfect for her practical lifestyle. "Are you sure? This isn't just about Minji?" "I'm completely sure," Woojin said, getting down on one knee beside her chair. "Young, Yejin, you saved my daughter's life before I even knew she needed saving. You loved her when I couldn't be there to do it myself. You taught me how to be a father, and you showed me what it means to love someone selflessly. Will you marry me? Will you be Minji's mother and my wife?" "Yes," Yejin said through her tears, laughing as he slipped the ring onto her finger. "Yes, of course, yes." Their wedding 6 months later was small and perfect, just family and close friends, with Minji as the flower girl, crawling down the aisle with determined enthusiasm, while the guests laughed and took photos. Yejin's bridal bouquet was made of the same yellow roses that had been in her shop the night Minji arrived, and Woojin's boutonniere matched perfectly. In his vows, Woojin promised to love and cherish both his wife and daughter, to build a family that honored the brave young woman who had brought them all together through her sacrifice. In her vows, Yejin promised to love Minji as fiercely as if she had given birth to her, and to love Woo Jin with the same unconditional devotion she had shown their daughter from the very first night. 2 years later, they welcomed a son, Minjun, whose name meant clever and talented. And Minji proved to be a devoted big sister, carefully helping with feedings and diaper changes with the serious concentration she brought to everything. The family photo on their living room wall showed 4 people who had found each other through the most unexpected circumstances. A young father who had searched tirelessly for his lost daughter, a woman who had opened her heart and home to a stranger's child, a baby who had brought them together through her need for love and stability, and a little boy who completed their unconventional but perfect family. Sometimes, late at night when both children were sleeping, Yejin and Woo Jin would talk about Soo Young, wondering where she was, hoping she was safe and happy, grateful for the impossible gift she had given them by choosing love over desperation, hope over fear. They never heard from her again, but they kept a photo of her on Minji's dresser and told their daughter stories about the brave young woman who had loved her enough to find her the perfect family. When Minji was old enough to ask questions about her birth mother, they answered honestly and lovingly, making sure she understood that she was wanted and cherished by everyone who had ever held her. In Seoul, a city where millions of people pass each other on the street without ever truly connecting, 4 lives had been woven together by one desperate act of love. A baby left on a doorstep had become the thread that connected a searching father with a lonely woman. Creating a family that proved love doesn't always follow traditional paths. Sometimes the greatest love stories aren't about romantic meetings or perfect timing. Sometimes they're about people who choose to love unconditionally, who open their hearts to unexpected possibilities, who believe that family can be created through courage and compassion rather than just blood and marriage. Yejin still created beautiful flower arrangements for other people's weddings and celebrations, but now she worked from a larger studio with a playpen in the corner where her children could stay close while she crafted beauty from simple blooms. And every time she worked with yellow roses, she remembered the night her life changed forever. The night she opened her door to find love waiting on her doorstep in the most unexpected form. Their love story was unconventional, complicated, and born from desperate circumstances. But it was also proof that sometimes the most beautiful families are the ones that choose each other, that fight for each other, that transform obligation into devotion and necessity into the deepest kind of love.